Give me a minute while I de-stress because I switched to a different mic from my last live that I just did on Insta. Hold on, just give me a second. Okay, I have got to pay attention to the details. I will be putting a post it note up. I apologize. How now I'll get all these comments. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. And I'll have to be like, listen in a little bit. I'm going to put a post it note. I'm a post it note girl. I'm going to put it up that says, check your mic. It's the second time I've done that today. Oh, it might be my dirty hair that is cutting off brain cells. It's so dirty, I had to cover it with a hat. So, we're going to talk about, because I'm pretty sure you can hear me now. Annabella, first of all, thank you for telling me that so much. Um, yeah, I had to take a little breath there because I'm like, I did the same thing on Instagram. So I did have to take a little breath. It stressed me out. And remember, when cortisol goes up, magnesium goes out. And the first time it happened didn't phase me. I am a little disappointed in myself because your time is important. So let's get on track. Oh, thank you. That's so kind, Trisha. You're so kind. Okay, so saving money on magnesium. I don't want you overspending on magnesium. Money, just the price of everything is going crazy right now. I know what used to cost me $8,000 to ship the magnesium. The last time I paid for it, I don't know how much it'll be this time. It was $36,000. That's like, oh. And so the price of everything is going up. And so I really thought that some money saving tips on your magnesium would be helpful. So, number one, if you are a person that just wants to relax your muscles, buy the magnesium spray and use it on your muscles, and that will relax your muscles. It's the cheapest, most effective way to relax your muscles. If you've got tight shoulders, if you're getting cramps, it will not get rid of restless legs. It will not get you to cell saturation. Don't do the lotion, don't do the muscle cream. The spray will help that the most. If you, and that's what I call relaxing doses of magnesium. If you want a therapeutic dose of magnesium and you do the 30-day challenge where you soak every day ish, you're going to miss a couple days. Imperfect action is awesome. Then here's the biggest disconnect I see people doing. They do the 30-day challenge and they don't get tested after. I know it's another $50. I know it's some time investment and you're busy. That test is going to save you so much money on magnesium because you're going to know exactly what you need to do because I'm going to guide you through it. And I'm going to take what I've learned in 23 years, I'm going to condense it, and I'm going to say, if you're below a 5, we've got to, if your first test comes in below a 5, we have got to figure out where you're leaking your magnesium. And we've got to do a hardcore evaluation where we determine what steps can realistically be taken because after your 30-day challenge, bare minimums, you must come in at a 5. If you have not, we have a crack in your foundation that is so wide, further soaking is going to be a waste. And that the only way that you can know that is to get that magnesium red blood cell test. Now, I believe in fact, I'll put it again. Let me try this again. I put the link to my favorite place. I shortened it. That looks a little weird. I shortened it because it was this great big long link. I put the link to my favorite lab to get your blood work done. Yes, it's energy and time and 50 more bucks. That one $50 test is going to determine how much you soak, how much time you have to spend on soaking, and if you need to add other products. Don't add other products if you don't need them. Well, in my opinion. Oh, I said that in a way that was very controlling. For me, I would not want to add other products. I want to keep it as simple as possible. My only goal with magnesium is cell saturation and maintaining it. That's it. I don't want to have to add all the products if I don't need them. If you've come in under a 5, and I would love to know if anyone has tested and if you know where your numbers are at, and if you'd be willing to share your first test. Now, remember, this test is not perfect. It is not perfect because 60% of your magnesium is in your bones, and that doesn't show up on the test. We need that magnesium in your bones, creating good bone health. Magnesium looks like a lace, like lattice over your bones, and you need that on your bones. That's critical for optimal bone health. 60% goes there. We're testing around the red blood cells. We're testing that other 40%. Is it a perfect test? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Kristen's first test came in at a 5.2. So at a 5.2, now I'm not telling Kristen what to do. I'm sharing some thoughts, and Kristen is going to take her filter and her body, her experience, and make the best decisions for her. She barely came in over a 5. And so, if that were me, I would add some other supplemental things because ultimately the goal is 6.3. And so I would want to boost it because the boosters are cheaper than the magnesium. And so at that point, I'm going to say, okay, I'm investing in some boosters because I want some more action. Oh, my dog's asleep on my lap and I clap my hands and he's not happy. And I don't think I'm talking into my mic. Is that better? I forgot to do that too. My gosh. You know what? Let me tell you what happened. I bought a tapestry purse today when I was thrifting, and it is so beautiful. And my brain cannot think because I'm thinking of all the outfits I'm going to wear with it. Okay, I'm getting on track. So I would add, I would not want to do just straight magnesium at 5.2. I want more benefit from the magnesium, which means I've got to set my body up for more success because I only came in at 5.2. And here's the things that I would do. Very first off, I would look at my hydration. Water's free. So I would look at hydration. If I'm drinking enough water, but I don't feel hydrated and I feel dry and my urine is not pale yellow in the morning, then that's an indication that my water's not going into the cells. And so then I would look at my salt. I love Selena Naturally Salt. I'll link that in the comments. And I would use whatever salt levels are appropriate for your individual journey because minerals drive water into the cells. So that's the first place I'd start is I would just look at that. Then, and this one is it will be different for Kristen with an I than Kristen with an E. It will be very different. If I had healed my relationship with food, I would look at my sugar intake. And if it wouldn't trigger me, and if it didn't put my brain into deprivation, I would decrease my sugar. Now, if you haven't done the work to heal your relationship with food and it triggers you to have the thought, don't eat that. And if that's going to send you to eat more, then I'd completely stay away from that. I wouldn't even touch it with a 10-foot pole because there's other things that you can do. If you have healed your relationship with food, and if you're not triggered, if you don't feel deprived, now maybe you can willpower your way through it sometimes. But ask yourself, do I feel deprived? Do I feel left out if other people are eating sugar? If you feel deprived, your subconscious is being triggered, and that's burning through magnesium. So don't go there. Well, you choose, but whatever. And so that one's very individual for where you're at. And I'm someone who's had a very disordered relationship with food. And so there have been years of my life that would have triggered me subconsciously. I could have willpowered it through most of the time, but it would have really triggered me. And so when it triggers you, it's not a good time to do that because the trigger is draining more magnesium. And this is about keeping the magnesium in our body. So that part of the journey is very individual. And no one can tell you if it's triggering you internally. Only you can do the work and determine if it is or not. The next thing that I would do is I would add taurine. Taurine is an amino acid. Use it as a supplement. It's hard to get enough taurine from food to make this happen. I like the straight powdered taurine. I see it working better. Take the amount that's directed on the back of the package. That's an adequate amount to take. Just get it in powdered form and mix it in water. Taurine specifically is going to help hold magnesium in your cells. If you are someone who works out a lot, if you are someone who lifts weights a lot, if you're someone who sweats a lot, if you're someone who does hard physical work, you might be deficient in taurine. And so you're not holding on to the magnesium that you have. That's a simple one. So simple, relatively inexpensive, and pretty easy to fit into somebody's lifestyle and what's happening. Oh, it's in the other room. I've got to go grab it and show it. Oh my gosh, it's spectacular. It's a tapestry. It's so beautiful. So beautiful. I'm like planning the outfit I'm going to wear it with. Okay, so the next thing I would do is I would look at my B vitamins. B vitamins are just incredibly important. B vitamins are cofactors to magnesium. Now, whole food versus synthetic B vitamins. Whole food B vitamins can be found in desiccated liver, can be found in blue-green algae, can be found in blackstrap molasses. Those are a couple. There are more sources. So we want to make sure we're getting B vitamins from food sources. You might need to supplement with a synthetic version. Personally, I think, and the pattern that I see with women is when they supplement with a methylated B vitamin, because when you use the methylated version of the B vitamin, there's less conversion factors that have to be in place for your body to uptake and access the B vitamins. So that's another place that you can look at. Um, Another thing that you can look at, but this one again is very individual, is boron and adding some boron. Now, I make my own boron and I use the, see, I've got to be really careful or this will get flagged. Mule Team. I'll just call it Mule Team. If you're not comfortable doing that, don't use that. Buy an ionic boron solution on Amazon and use that for your boron. But it's not appropriate for everyone because if you have PCOS, it will aggravate, boron will aggravate you taking that testosterone and convert, or taking your hormones and converting them to testosterone. Boron will make it happen faster. So that one's very individual. Now, another thing that you can do is get your lymph moving. Move your lymph, dry brushing, jogging in place, rebounding, a brisk walk, doing a routine where you actually move your lymph. There's one that I do. I wonder if that's still on YouTube. I used to have a little YouTube video that shows the process of what I do to move the lymph through my body. Um, Moving your lymph manually with your hands or with a dry brush or with a gua sha. Those are all things because magnesium's moving through your lymph, and that will help you. Taking a little bit of the magnesium, putting your finger in it, and a huge disclaimer, I got several emails. People were frustrated with me. It might not work for you. And if it doesn't, stop doing it. It works for me. I'm not saying it'll work for everyone. My underskin can take it without burning. Yours may not. If it burns and tingles, just do a test spot. If it burns and tingles you, don't do it. Stop. It works for me and it might work for some of you. And that is before I soak, I take my hand and I just dip it right in the magnesium and I put it right. Oh my gosh, is that a tap? Oh, I thought that was a tap. I put it right underneath my armpit, right on my skin, and I rub it in. Now, a great indication, in fact, if you can, do this right now. If you're not driving, if you're in a good place, push in. You can tell I'm really pushing in there and rub it. Is that tender? If that's tender, your lymph isn't moving the magnesium efficiently. Try the other side. Is that tender? If that's tender, your lymph is not moving the magnesium efficiently. And so it's incredibly important, the quality of your lymph. And remember, your lymph goes everywhere your blood goes, but it has no pump other than when you move. That's why I recommend people, when they start the 30-day challenge, if they can, when they're ready to add the second layer, they add walking, 60 minutes of walking a day. That's going to do more to help your metabolism, your blood sugar, your glucose, your insulin penetration at the cellular level than anything. And it's going to help the magnesium to move because the morning sunshine is reducing inflammation, and the 60 minutes of walking is increasing your lymphatic movement because your heart pumps the blood, it doesn't pump your lymph. And so it becomes really important. And if this is tender on you, when you should be able to push in. Let's go to another spot. You can hear all the jingles of my jewelry. Go to your collarbone, the tip of your collarbone. Go over about 2 inches and down about 2 inches. And I've got running. Okay, about right there's these little divots. I want you to take your two fingers and push in, kind of find those little divots. This is called K27. These are lymphatic drainage spots. And if you're not driving, if you're in a good time to do this, just rub them. And they get full. Rub them, circle one way, circle around the other way. If you find your arms getting incredibly tired and almost burning, tingling, shake that off. This is energy congestion. This is the chi system that runs through your body, energy. We have an energy system, just like the telephone lines that have energy that run through them. Our bodies have energy that run through. And if while you're rubbing on that, if it's tender, we've got energy congestion and your lymph isn't moving, and it's really backed up, if your arms get heavy or tingling or aching, shake that off and do it again. And just continue to do that. We don't want you to bring pain to your body. We don't want any of that. But we do want to open up that lymphatic drainage, because when you do that, your magnesium is going to move more efficiently. There's another one. Let me see if I can get this sleepy puppy. I wish I wish my room, oh gosh. Oh, he wants to stay asleep. So I wish my room was bigger so that I could back up and show you. One day I'll have a bigger office so I can do stuff like that. So go again, if you can, go to your kneecap, take your two fingers and point it right under your kneecap. If you can picture that, tell me if that makes sense for those of you that are on. And you've got that your shin bone right there. I want you to take right under your knee bone, your two fingers on either side of that shin bone. And I want you just to run your fingers down your shin bone and do that, I don't know, 7 or 8 times. That's a great, simple way to get your lymph moving. Now, here's a really beautiful thing about getting your lymph moving in that when you do, your hormones move more effectively also. So, your lymph holds your hormones, it holds your immune system. Part of your immune system is in your lymph, and a sluggish lymph is someone who gets sick more often. And so by doing these small moves, we're helping that lymph to create better patterns. Now, there's another one that's really good. Let me move the sleeping dog, heaven forbid. We went on a big walk this morning, so he's really tired. So let's see, we did the K27, we've done that lymph right under our arms. Now is what I want you to do is go behind your back, and I want you to touch your thumbs at your waist. Now, when I did this with my girls, that was when low-waisted pants were in style. Now they're higher waisted again. My girls didn't know where their waist was. And I'm like, no, up. Go to your natural waist. If you're used to lower waisted jeans, go up to your natural waist and put your thumbs in the back. And this, especially if you sit a lot. In fact, this is something that I do every time I get up from being at my computer. In fact, I should be standing right now. I've got a standing desk. I need to do that more often. So, is all I want you to do is cross your thumbs in the back and then bring it around your waist and drop it off at the front. So, let me hold it up like this. So, your fingers are crossed, you're coming around, sweeping your thumb, keeping your thumb right on your body, and then at the front of your belly button, you're dropping down. And you will be amazed if you sit a lot and you get stiff in that lower back, what that does to open you up. And that's another helpful thing when it comes to making the most of your magnesium. And here's the last one that we're going to talk about. And then my husband just texted me and said, please put the sweet potatoes on to cook. And so I need to go do that because I didn't know he wanted me to do that. So the last thing is your hydrochloric acid in your gut. Did you know that by having better hydrochloric acid functionality in your gut, you will utilize more of the magnesium and the nutrients in your body? It's one of the roadblocks to help. It is one of the major roadblocks to help. And so increasing your hydrochloric acid is important for your body to uptake and utilize the magnesium that you're soaking in. And if you have acid reflux, if you have gas, if you burp after meals, if when you have gas it smells, those are all signs of low hydrochloric acid. And so de-stressing, noticing when you eat, when you sit down to eat, how stressed are you? How tight is your belly? Have you taken a big deep breath? And just blow it out just to relieve the stress so that you're more relaxed when you start to eat. And then chew your food better. This can improve the quality of digestion and hydrochloric acid needs when you chew your food. So some people say count to 20, some people say count to 30. Whatever works for you. I just like to chew it until it's like soup. I've just chewed my food and okay, I don't feel any more food parts. It's time to swallow. We tend to eat too fast in our society. And because of that, it takes more hydrochloric acid to it takes more hydrochloric acid because your gut's having to do more work that your mouth didn't do. It's really important and can make such a difference. In fact, I was talking to a client, I consider her a dear friend. I don't know, I should say that back about me, but anyway, I just realized that. Anyway, sorry, she increased her hydrochloric acid, and without soaking, her magnesium levels went up. And so your gut functionality, now we need the magnesium to move things. And so we've got to have both. It's like a dovetail approach once that hydrochloric acid has dropped. But if you're not moving those numbers like you want to, those are the things that you need to look at. And testing where you're at, because a 5.2 needs to really add some layers so that her next 30 days of soaking is going to be even more efficient. And so a game plan needs to happen. Personally, I think it needs to be written down. In fact, would that be a good class to do? We could do a game plan class. Let me know what you think of that. You need to write down a written game plan for those 30 days. Here are the layers that I am adding so that I am maximizing my magnesium levels so that I can achieve that 6.3. So then I can determine how often I need to soak for maintenance. And spending more time in the beginning, and yes, it does take some time investment. Spending more time there is going to change the course of how much you have to buy of magnesium. And I don't want you soaking every day. I want you getting your numbers up efficiently and then maintaining and going through the next gate of health so that you're building, constantly building and creating that body that has energy, that feels good, that wakes up in the morning on its own so that you can do those things that will bring you optimal health and you can create those things that you want to. Okay, Kristen. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go run grab the purse. But Kristen, will you leave a comment? Um, because like put Kristen ran to go get her purse, because when people come on, they're not going to understand what's going on. So you leave a comment. I'll go grab the purse. Hold on just a second. Okay. Are you ready? We need a drum roll. So we're done talking about magnesium. I hope that helped you walk through the process of optimizing your magnesium levels, of using, because my goal is always this: least amount of input for maximum output. And I want to do the very least amount that I can, but I want to optimize the energy that I am putting in, because there's only 24 hours in a day, and there's only so many energy points that your body has. And I just want to maximize the steps that I am taking. So hopefully, in fact, tell me which of those steps was most helpful for you. And that helps me determine what we can talk about. So right now, Kristen and I are going to go on a squirrel moment. So I'm a thrifter. If you want to hold on to your magnesium, do something that you love. And I love to thrift. As a little girl, I hated it. I wore hand-me-downs and I wanted new clothes. I remember for Christmas when I got my first article of clothing that had a tag on it, and I didn't take it off because I wanted everybody to know these were not hand-me-downs. And I swore I would never make my kids wear hand-me-downs because I don't know why, but I just hated it. Anyway, so it just makes me laugh that I'm so into quote hand-me-downs. I love it. I think it's better for our environment. It reduces the carbon footprint 80% when you reuse an item the second time. 80% reduction in the carbon footprint. And there's so much that goes to our landfills. And so it's one of the things that I do to help steward and be a better steward of the earth. And I tell my husband that when I bring in a bag from thrifting, and I'll say, I'm helping the earth. The earth needed help. And I stepped up and I helped it. Anyway, I just love it. It's like a treasure hunt. So are you ready for this purse? Now, here's the deal. These purses were made in the 40s and early 50s, and it's really hard to find them with the original chain. And this one has the original chain, and that's what made me so happy. So, are you ready? Bum, ba, ba, ba. Look how sweet that is. I don't know what I'm going to wear it with. I paid 25 cents for it. It makes me so happy. I am filled with gratitude and just had a moment of, oh, my life is good. Now, there's one spot I can see right here that I've got to tighten up. I'll use a little pair of pliers and tighten up because that could slip out. But it's in such beautiful shape on the inside, like it's just beautiful. And it was 25 cents. And it made me laugh because when the place that I go really early in the morning, everybody lines up and it's like this race. And most of them are resellers, which means they are looking for things that they can resell and make money on. I'm there. I buy books for my grandkids and I buy paper and art supplies and I buy purses that make me happy. And so I'm not reselling things. My husband thinks I should, but I'm not reselling things. And so today I saw this and I was like, no way, no way. And nobody was picking it up. And I thought, okay, I'm grabbing it. And the guy next to me, because I squealed, and the guy next to me goes, oh, what'd you get that was good? And I said, this purse. And he goes, oh, that's not worth anything. My grandma wouldn't even use that. So I started pulling up, here's what it's worth online. He was like, lady, give me the purse. I'm like, I got it fair and square. You didn't grab it. So anyway, I don't know what I'm going to wear it with, but I absolutely love it. I love thrifting. Living your life and creating moments of time that you can do something that you love helps you hold on to your magnesium. I love thrifting. When I'm thrifting, it's a treasure hunt and I'm finding stuff for my grandkids. I found great books today for a quarter a piece for my little, well, he's almost a year now, but they're little board books that make sounds and he'll be so excited. It's trucks and boats and all these great things. And when you're living in a way that you experience those pinch me, my life is real moments, that brings your cortisol down and that helps you hold on to your magnesium. Oh, thrift vultures. I guess I've never heard them called that. I look at it maybe I don't know. I look at it a little bit differently. I see people out there just working to keep food on the tables for their families, and so they're finding things and then they're reselling them. And I do buy some of my thrift items online at Poshmark is what I usually use from people who have found them in other places. So the people that I'm with aren't vulture don't have that vulture mentality. They're just men and women that are working hard to create income or supplement their incomes. And yeah, I think they're great. Too harsh. I personally wouldn't call them that. I've just met some really nice people, and I know, and I guess maybe Kristen, this is my filter on it. When after I had my health crash, oh, I don't know if I want to tell this, I might cry. After I had my health crash, I financially decimated my family. Like I I absolutely I decimated my family financially. We lost everything. We were homeless. My parents had to step in and help us financially to feed our kids. I mean, we had just issue after issue. And we went from like middle income to just desperation. And I remember when I got feeling better and my my family had lived the stress of it, but I was so sick, I didn't realize what my family had been living because I was so sick. And so when I started feeling better and I realized how hard it had been on my kids, and we didn't have money for braces, we didn't have money for piano lessons and harp lessons, and I just one of the things that's really important to me was helping my kids develop their talents. And we couldn't do that. We couldn't do it in the way that we had used to do it. We just didn't have the money for it. And so one of the things that I did was I went to garage sales, and at that point DI Deseret Industries, because we lived in Utah. And I used to buy kids books. I have a passion about children's books that are quality literature that just get tossed. They just get tossed. And I'm like, no, you can't. Those are good books. And so I would buy the books and then I'd go to a book conference and I'd sell the books. And that literally would pay for my kids' school fees, and it would pay for us to go to DI and get their back to school clothes. And so I guess I wouldn't want to be considered a thrift vulture because I I use that to help my family, and I hope I never came across being um taking away from others. At the time, I was just doing everything I could because at that point, I still couldn't drive. I was still having seizures. All the tubes had been taken out of me, and I could drink water again, and I could eat certain foods, like so I could soups and broth and like avocados was about all I could eat. Um, and so I couldn't drive, and so one of my kids would drive me around to, like, garage sales and things. So I guess from my own experience, I look at them, um, I look at them, and I just remember those days that I it was like now I do it out of pure love of doing it. It's not a have to, but back then, like, it was, it paid for back to school fees, and it paid for backpacks that we could find that were thrifted so that my kids felt like they had something new to get excited to go back to school. So, ah, I've got some work to do on that to bring up that level of emotion. Tells me that that is okay. Let's learn from that. So, if me retelling that story brings up this level of emotion, it's still burning my magnesium every day. And so, I just learned in a very public way that I need to go through and I need to use tapping, I need to use journaling, I need to maybe have some conversations with my kids because it's bringing up like a lot of emotion for me. And so that means the emotion was inside, which means that emotion is every day driving my magnesium burn rate every single day. And I remember one time I was really feeling despondent about the loss of just what my kids had lost throughout that illness. It was about 3.5 years. And and so I had called them up, and my husband said, "You need to talk to the kids, not just assume that they think it was the worst, most horrible thing that ever happened and that you ruined their life. You need to talk with them." And he said, "Here's the question I want you to ask." And I'm convinced healthy women ask healthy questions. And he helped me ask a better question. And he said, "Ask your kids what they learned from the experience." So I reached out to each, and maybe the reason I'm sharing this is maybe if you're going through a really hard time in your family or with people that you're connected with, that this perspective that I have being out of that really hard time, maybe it will help you. So at the time, so I reached out to each of my kids because it was like maybe 10 years after the hard time, but I was still just feeling so sad about some of the things that had happened and how desperate our family had gotten. And so I reached out to each of them, and their perspective changed my life and changed the guilt that I held, each one of them. So I reached out, and many of you know Megan, my daughter, who's the warehouse manager. If you've ever had magnesium, she's hand filled it, and she's been the one that's twisted the lid on it. In about 3 weeks, that's going to be automated, but she has touched that magnesium. If you've ever gotten it, it's come through my daughter's hands. And I said to her, "Was there anything that you learned from that?" And she said, "Oh, mom, I learned how to take an empty, basically empty food pantry and make something that my siblings would love to eat." And the girl she's literally a chef. She's gone to school. And she said, "I learned that I have a love of creating beautiful plates of food and to help bring people's stress levels down and to feed them." And she said, "I never would have learned that gift if I wouldn't have been in the situation that my mom was too sick to make food and I had siblings that were hungry." And so she said, "My greatest passion came from that experience." And then one of my sons, I called him my oldest son, and he's actually, oh, his degree is, oh, I should write this down. I have the hardest time remembering it. He's a financial something, 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 and he is so good at what he does, and he loves helping people take the money that they've earned and create pathways of utilizing that money in a way that doesn't stress the family. Because I think it's really easy to think, "Oh, money will solve all my problems," when you don't have it. But having more money, it does make life easier on some fronts. It also causes some other problems. And so he helps, it's called legacy wealth, and he helps families create a pathway of legacy health that will not set the next generation up not to understand and know the value of money because there was the legacy of wealth. And it's his passion, and he's so good at it. And so when I asked him, I said, "Did you learn anything?" And he said, "Mom, I used to see dad so stressed out over the bills and trying to take care of you and more medical bills coming in. And I was really good with numbers." And so he had turned to his dad one day and said, "Hey, let me do this." But he didn't know how to do it. And so he started reading, um, Robert Kiyosaki. I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name, but they were money books at the time that were really popular. And so he started reading those and learning what he could do to help his dad because he saw his dad so stressed out trying to be, take care and nurture kids and take care of a wife that was sick and still bring in income and take care of all the bills that were just drowning, that we were drowning in. And so that's when he realized money and how you handle it can really stress a family out. And that is, I mean, I cannot tell you how good he is at it. It is his gift, and it is something that he is passionate about helping other families to do. And he found that through that process. And anyway, I could just go on and on with each of my kids. So remember, if you're in a really hard, stressful time right now, it doesn't make the stress better. It doesn't make it easier to deal with. Remember the big picture. And the big picture is there are lessons to be learned. Do I wish I could go back and change that? Yeah, I do. Even though my kids learned some really good things, I do wish I could go back and change it. At the same time, their passions were developed and they were able to tap into things that I don't know if they would have tapped into, um, if they wouldn't have been between that rock and that hard spot. Now, I don't wanna dismiss the trauma that they experienced because the ideal situation is that my children would have had a mother that could meet their needs. They shouldn't have had to meet mine, and so I don't wanna dismiss that from their experience. There were nuggets within that, so I still have inner work to do on this. Oh my gosh. Oh, did you love doing that with your mom growing up? So, I don't know where my mom got thrifted clothes from. I don't know where she got them. I just remember being handed them and wanting to wear different things. My first thrifting experience, well, it wasn't really thrifting. We lived in California and gunny sack. Does anyone remember the Jessica McClintock gunny sack dresses? I loved them. Like, I loved them, and I wanted one so much, and they were so expensive. And so my mom had a friend who said, "Hey, I heard if we go to San Francisco, there's an outlet that sells Jessica McClintock gunny sack dresses that need like buttons sewed back on or something was wrong with them, but you can buy the buttons and the missing lace and then we can um get gunny sack dresses for our girls for just a dollar or 2." And so it was like now they say outlet malls, but those aren't outlets. Like, this was truly the warehouse would move, it wasn't advertised, you had to know somebody who knew somebody. You'd walk in this huge, massive warehouse in downtown San Francisco, and there would just be tables and tables and tables. And so a bunch of my mom and her friends took all their daughters up, and we all wanted gunny sack dresses by Jessica McClintock. And so we were standing there, and I came from a pretty conservative family, and we were in San Francisco, and I was probably 7 or 8, and people there weren't dressing rooms, and, these workers had just come throw it out, and people were just, like, diving in to find things, and people were just dropping their clothes off to change right there, and I remember just being like, "Oh my gosh," 'cause I'd just never been exposed to anything like that before, but we did score some Jessica McClintock outlet clothes, and then my mom went home and she sewed the buttons on and she put the lace on, and I would beg her at night, "Please, please, please let me sleep in it. I don't I don't ever want to take it off." And I had to laugh because I was looking on Poshmark for something, and Jessica McClintock, I guess they're really high value in the thrifting world. So, like, if you're a reseller and you're creating this secondary flow or maybe main flow of income for your family, if you find Jessica McClintock, they're good ones to find because they have a high resale value. And I don't know where I'm going to find it, but I put, because I make a list on thrifting. I put in the physical world a list of what I'm looking for. And I cannot tell you how many times it shows up for me. I'm convinced it works. And so I put on my thrifting list, I have a notebook that I carry with me of what I'm looking for and what I'm open to finding. I have put a Jessica McClintock piece because that was my very first time that I loved doing that kind of thing and thrifting. And it was a sweet memory with my mom. So, Joya, thank you for helping me remember and tap into that sweet memory. And I kind of, I have to admit, sometimes when I get this open and personal, I feel a bit exposed on social media. But I do know that when a family is going through a hard time, that there's also some diamonds in the rough that are being created. And my kids are walking examples of that. So if your family's going through a hard time, hopefully that will be a little nugget that you can hold on to, that there will be things that you can look back on and say, okay, this was really hard and it shouldn't have happened this way. There are things that we learned from it. So thanks for being with me today. Thanks for your comments. Um, now, oh, Kristen. So now we have, not we, I have had such issues with the blog. Um, I think we've lost the blog like 7 times over the 23 years of running the company. And so when we signed up for this new thing and I paid a lot of money for it, it was supposed to just be this fabulous blogging experience so that I could put so much stuff up there. And it never has been. It's been a nightmare. And so I finally hired someone to come in and fix it because I'm like, okay, this does not work how it's supposed to work. Something's wrong. And so I guess they didn't put it together, the foundation piece correctly. And so that's why I had such issues. And so that book list is a blog post that will go up because I think books bring children's cortisol levels down. So, for example, I'll share one with you right now that I think children should be read to, and this is my opinion. Hold on, I need some water. Hold on, just a second. This is just my opinion, and you make the best decision for your family because I used to be totally opposite, but then when I read some other opinions on it, I realized I was not understanding the depth of what it could do. So, some of my children have came to my home as older kids and had been through some trauma. And I'd had the opinion, no, I'm not going to let my children read some of those fairy tales. They're dark. And I wanted my children to read uplifting things. A fairy tale helps a child make sense of the hard things in their own life. And it gives them sense of pathways and a sense of direction. Fairy tales are incredible ways to help a child cope with hard things. And personally, I think right now the world is handing harder and harder and harder things for our children to manage. Raising a child with social media, it's just really tough. You not only have to parent in the in real life world, you have to parent in a digital world also. And it's just so much of it. And so I love fairy tales and the power of what a fairy tale can do to help a child sort through hard things in their brain and determine what is right, what is wrong, what is hard, what they can let go of. And so our favorite fairy tale books that all of my children have copies of, and I like the ones that are out of print. I don't like the newer reprint ones, and so it took me a long time to thrift these. They're called Andrew Lang, and it's each book is a different color. So it's like the red fairy tale book, the yellow fairy tale book, the brown fairy tale book. And they're beautiful fairy tales of darkness and light, but you have to have the darkness to recognize the light. And they're just powerful stories that actually help children recognize the power of dark and light and to see pathways in their own things that they're thinking about and battling on the inside. So I think that Andrew Lang's fairy tales are a beautiful book to be thrifting. Once that blog stuff gets all finished, I absolutely will link because I think a good book can actually reduce your magnesium or can help you hold on to your magnesium by reducing cortisol levels. And it's really important that we don't read a lot of broken books because if you read broken book after broken book after broken book, it's like gossip. You're just draining the energy of your soul. Now, broken books can be important. In a broken book, hopefully, you want to take action after you read the broken book and you take action in the real world and make something better. That's what a broken book can lead you to. But it's like social media. If you start consuming, scrolling with your thumb, going through, oh, those are my two kids. Aren't they cute? If you just start scrolling through, you're getting dopamine hits with no work, and that creates issues. And so by making sure that you're not reading broken books without taking action. It's just like online. How many recipes have you seen online that you've thought, oh, I want to make that, save that recipe. Oh, I'm going to make that. Well, stop scrolling until you've taken action and made the recipe because that dopamine of making the recipe is real dopamine. The dopamine of just scrolling, like for example, I'm a humanitarian and it's important to me that I do humanitarian things. And I saw this guy who was making tires or taking tires and making shoes for kids who didn't have shoes. Well, I was very touched by that. And I kept scrolling and getting all these humanitarian things. Well, I got all these feel good, like, oh my gosh, this person's doing this and this person's, and I feel so good. That's synthetic dopamine. I didn't do anything to make the world a better place. I just scrolled. That's fake synthetic dopamine, and that's harmful dopamine. That's a dopamine addiction. And just like a broken book can give us synthetic dopamine. And so we need to make sure that we're taking action. Just like when we scroll, we have to take action if we've seen something that, like, oh, that needs to change, or oh, I want to make that recipe, or oh, I want to make that craft. We need to stop. Don't add more until we've taken action, because is what it does is it leads to someone who never has enough. They if they get one question answered, they just have another question. If they learn one thing, they just have to learn another thing. That's someone who's addicted to dopamine, who is that synthetic dopamine. And we need to stop and have gratitude. So like today, I almost, and I caught myself when I found my beautiful purse that I don't know what I'm going to wear it with, but I'm going to create some outfit for my closet for it. And I started to go like, oh my gosh, I've got to go find something else. I was like, oh, Kristen, don't go there. And I just stood for, I don't know, a minute, and I had gratitude that I found that purse. And I not just like I thought about it, I created the gratitude in my body. I felt it in my stomach, I felt it in my heart. I did some breathing and I just really experienced a deep moment of gratitude that I had the ability to wake up early in the morning. I had the health to wake up early in the morning. I had a car, I had gas, I had the ability to drive. I had the quarter extra in my budget. I haven't always had that. And I had the ability to go wait in line for the Goodwill outlets to open. And I had the health to walk to it. And I just took a moment in that gratitude so I wasn't just moving on to the next thing. Because when we do that, we're never content. One is too many, and 1,000 will never be enough. And it's it's so important because if we're driven by that, our magnesium burn rate will be high. That type of person has to soak more often. And again, my goal is not for people to be soaking, soaking, soaking all the time. My goal is to help you be as efficient as possible to break the patterns that aren't serving you and walk away from the beliefs that aren't serving you, that are keeping your burn rate high. And so making sure that you're taking action. If you see something, a recipe, maybe you've seen 3, it's time to stop being on social media and take action and make one of those recipes. That's earned dopamine. And that's a different level of dopamine than the synthetic that we get from scrolling, or Netflix binging. That's another one. That's synthetic dopamine, just one to the next, to the next, to the next. And so it's important that we have dopamine that we've worked for. So think about it like this. When I hire someone, I need someone who understands an hour work for an hour pay. And if they don't understand that concept, they can drain money at living the good life naturally through employee hours. And one of my goals is to offer you magnesium at the best price that I can. And if I have a team of people who don't have the concept of an hour work for an hour pay, it's a disconnect. If you're scrolling social media and getting that synthetic dopamine hit, you're creating a disconnect. If you've got question after question after question after question, usually there's a synthetic dopamine issue, and there's a disconnect. And every time we have a disconnect, think of magnesium just being poured through that disconnect. So these Facebook Lives, and YouTube also, I don't think we have anybody on. Oh, yeah, we do have a couple people from YouTube. Um, these Facebook Live and YouTube Lives will be 4 o'clock Pacific time ish every day, Monday through Friday. I'm going to miss a couple days. I missed yesterday. I finished up the live on Instagram and my head was killing me and my mouth was dry and I just had nothing left to give. Now, a lot of times I would push through that. And I'm working to hold more respect and better boundaries for myself. And I was like, you know what? I'm done for the day. I'm done with work. And I now need to go take care of my family and dinner and make sure that I'm in bed early tonight so that my body rests. And so there will be times that I don't get on. I will do my best to be here every day at 4 o'clock so that we can just talk about ways that you can hold on and benefit from your magnesium. I do not know. Did you guys hear that beep? I don't know what that is. It might be my cloud lifter with my interface. Can you still hear me? I don't know what just happened. Anyway, so thank you for being here. We're going to call it good. I've gone too long on this live. Imagine that. I am Now, let's see, we could maybe call me Kristen, the long-winded magnesium advocate. But it was nice having you here. And I hope you've taken some nuggets away from today. And I'll try to keep them a little shorter so they're not quite as long-winded. And I do appreciate your thoughts, your questions, your comments. That helps me determine what we're going to talk about the next time. And Team Good Life is doing a fantastic job of taking all the comments and questions that are coming in right now. We're having more than we've ever had. They're putting them in a doc. I pull that doc up on my second screen, and then I do my lives based on those questions that have been asked. And then I'll throw things in that I get passionate about and that I think are super beneficial and might help someone, because that's my goal, is that these lives help you walk away with something. And it's important to me that you recognize, take action, because these lives, like if you were with me on this whole live, we were with each other for an hour and neither of us did anything to create help. We did have connection, and connection creates help. Taking action on something that you learned. Maybe you're going to evaluate your disconnects. Maybe I don't know what it is, but taking action after the lives is a habit that I think is vital to build. It's like a muscle, and you build that muscle so that every live that you're with me on, I expect you to be taking an action. It doesn't have to be big. In fact, the smaller the action, the better. A micro action. Maybe it's writing down one sentence of what you're grateful for. Maybe it's closing your eyes, taking a deep breath, pulling the air in, blowing it out, and saying, I am so grateful for I'll pull one of my mom. I'm going to visit my mom, and I'm really grateful that I have the ability to do that as she is getting older. I'm going to get some of her history and record some of her stories so that they're not lost. And so I'm grateful for that. So taking action on something that you've learned, or something that we've talked about, or something that pops into your brain, even if it's a micro action, even if it's drinking water, saying, "Ooh, I'm a little bit more hydrated for the next time I soak in magnesium," because action is what walks you toward optimal health. And women who feel good create change in the world. And that's why Living the Good Life Naturally was created, to help women feel good so you can create change in this world for children. When we make the world a better place for children, we are taking care of the next generation by creating kids that have their needs met, that are loved on, that have a safe place, because they'll grow up to do better things when they have that level of support from us. It's our responsibility, and I want to be a part of helping women to do that. And so that's what drives me on every live. That's why I show up. That's why I'm here. I want to make the world a better place for children. And we do that through women being magnesium rich instead of calcium dominant. Talk to you later. Bye bye. Oh, I love it. I love it. Hydrate, retest mag, and taurine. Boom. Awesome action items. Bye bye, guys.